The quantum communication array screamed with static, then resolved into a visual that made Dr. Maya Rodriguez's blood run cold. Kepler 452 Bits's primary research station appeared to be disintegrating in real time, its structural integrity fighting a losing battle against forces that defied conventional astrophysical understanding. "Repeat transmission," Maya demanded, her voice steady despite the tremor threatening to break through her professional facade. The holographic display flickered, showing glimpses of panic-stricken researchers, emergency containment protocols failing, and outside, beyond the station's transparent walls, a sky that seemed to be tearing itself apart. Her younger brother Miguel's face appeared momentarily in the transmission. Even through the degraded signal, Maya could see the terror in his eyes. He was the lead geological engineer on the colony, responsible for understanding the planet's fundamental structure. If Miguel looked scared, the situation was beyond critical. The transmission cut out. Maya's personal comm unit was already alive with incoming alerts. The Interstellar Colonization Commission's emergency channel blared with automated warnings, each message more dire than the last. Preliminary data streams suggested the binary star system was experiencing a cascade of gravitational anomalies that violated everything humanity understood about stellar mechanics. 2,700,000 human lives hung in the balance. She remembered the day Miguel had been selected for the Kepler 452 Bits mission. Their parents, both retired aerospace engineers, had been so proud. It was supposed to be humanity's most promising extrasolar colony, a testament to human adaptability and technological prowess. Situated in what astronomers had once called the Goldilocks zone of its star system, the planet represented decades of careful planning and unprecedented technological investment. Now that promise was about to be erased in what would amount to a cosmic blink. Maya's personal workspace was a controlled chaos of holographic displays, quantum computing interfaces, and advanced modeling systems. She had been working on theoretical stellar dynamics for the past decade, developing computational models that pushed the boundaries of human understanding. Her colleagues had often mocked her increasingly complex theories, suggesting she was more of a mathematical mystic than a serious engineer. They weren't laughing now. The preliminary data suggested something impossible. The binary stars weren't just becoming unstable. They were being actively destabilized by a mechanism that defied current scientific understanding. Gravitational waves were propagating in patterns that suggested intelligent manipulation rather than natural stellar evolution. Dr. Rodriguez, a crisp voice interrupted her thoughts. Admiral Elena Reyes, head of the Interstellar Colonization Commission's Emergency Response Division, materialized in a holographic projection. "We need an assessment. Immediately." Maya's fingers danced across her quantum interface, pulling up complex mathematical models and running simulations that would have taken traditional supercomputers decades to process. Each iteration revealed more disturbing information. The stellar system wasn't just dying. It was being methodically dismantled. "This is no natural phenomenon," Maya said, her voice carrying a mixture of scientific excitement and profound dread. "Something is deliberately destroying the system, and whatever that something is, it's far beyond anything we've encountered before." The holographic displays around her began populating with increasingly complex visualizations, gravitational stress maps, quantum entanglement patterns, and stellar mechanics models that looked more like abstract art than scientific data. To the untrained eye, it would seem like incomprehensible chaos. But to Maya, a pattern was emerging, a terrifyingly deliberate pattern. Admiral Reyes waited, her projection standing rigidly in Maya's workspace. Generations of military discipline were evident in her posture, but even she couldn't mask the hint of fear in her eyes. "How long?" the Admiral asked simply. Maya calculated quickly, cross-referencing multiple models. 17 days, maybe 16 if the current degradation rate accelerates. She paused, then added the most important detail. "And I have a plan. But it's going to sound completely insane." The look in her eyes suggested that insane might be the only option they had left. The recruitment room felt more like a battlefield than a conference center. Maya watched as her potential team members sized each other up, their reputations preceding them like heavy armor. Dr. Kaijong sat in the corner, his fingers constantly moving, tapping, sliding, calculating on a holographic interface that seemed an extension of his own body. Brilliant quantum mechanics theorist, holder of 17 patents, and known for a complete inability to maintain eye contact or engage in small talk. His last research paper had been so revolutionary that it had been initially dismissed as mathematical fiction, only to be proven partially correct 3 years later. Dr. Elena Okoy stood by the window, her cybernetic arm reflecting the harsh institutional lighting. A propulsion systems expert who had redesigned interstellar engine dynamics after losing her original arm in a catastrophic testing accident. Her reputation was built on turning disasters into breakthrough innovations. The prosthetic wasn't just a replacement. It was a statement of human resilience, packed with advanced sensor arrays and computational systems that made it more sophisticated than most research stations. Dr. David Chen slouched in his chair, looking like a man who had long ago stopped caring what anyone thought of him. Once a rising star in theoretical astrophysics, he had been professionally crucified after proposing a radical theory about stellar manipulation that his peers had unanimously condemned as pure fantasy. Now he worked as a consultant for minor research firms, his brilliance forgotten and his spirit seemingly broken. Maya knew each of them was a statistical anomaly, brilliant minds that didn't just think outside the box, but seemed to exist in an entirely different dimensional space of thought. "We have 17 days, Maya began, cutting through the ambient tension. 17 days to save 2.7 million lives, and potentially prevent the destruction of humanity's most promising extrasolar colony." Kay's fingers stopped moving. Elena turned from the window. David looked up, a spark of something, curiosity, perhaps hope, flickering in his eyes. "The binary star system isn't just becoming unstable," Maya continued. "It's being systematically dismantled by a mechanism we don't understand. This isn't a natural phenomenon. This is something else entirely." The holographic display came to life, showing complex gravitational wave patterns that looked more like abstract art than scientific data. Each team member leaned in, their professional skepticism momentarily replaced by pure scientific fascination. "I've assembled you because each of you has been rejected by the mainstream scientific community," Maya said bluntly. "Because each of you has proposed theories that were considered impossible, until they weren't." Kay's hand shot up, a gesture so socially awkward it almost made Elena smile. "The quantum signature suggests external manipulation," he blurted out. "But the energy requirements would be impossible," David interrupted, finishing the thought. "Except we're looking at proof that it's happening." Elena's cybernetic arm began running its own computational analysis, her organic eye and artificial sensors working in perfect synchronization. The gravitational stress patterns suggest a technology so advanced it's essentially indistinguishable from a natural process. But it's not natural. It's engineered. The room crackled with an electric tension. These weren't just scientists. They were rebels, misfits who had been told their entire careers that their ideas were impossible. Maya watched them, knowing the real challenge wasn't the technical problem. It was getting these 4 exceptional, deeply wounded individuals to work together. "My brother is on that colony," she said quietly. The statement hung in the air, transforming the abstract mission into something intensely personal. Kai looked up, making brief eye contact, a rare occurrence. Computational models suggest a 99.992% probability of total system collapse. "Then we'll find the 0.008%. Elena responded, her voice hard as her cybernetic arm. David leaned forward, something like his old fire returning to his eyes. "We'll need to develop an entirely new branch of quantum gravitational manipulation, something that doesn't just exist in theoretical models." Maya nodded. "Exactly. We're going to rewrite the laws of astrophysics in 17 days. For the first time, something like a smile passed across the team's faces. Not a happy smile, but the smile of people who live for the moments when the entire universe tells them something is impossible. The hunt for survival had begun. The research facility looked more like a controlled disaster zone than a scientific laboratory. Holographic displays flickered with impossible data, quantum computing arrays hummed with computational intensity, and the air crackled with a mixture of caffeine-fueled tension and breakthrough desperation. Kai Zhang hadn't slept in 72 hours. His workspace was a labyrinth of half-empty coffee containers, quantum interface modules, and mathematical models that seemed to defy conventional understanding. Strings of complex equations hung in the air, holographic representations that twisted and morphed as his fingers danced across invisible interfaces. "It's not just destabilization," Kai muttered, his words barely audible. "It's deliberate, systematic. There's a pattern here that's so complex it almost looks like intelligence." Elena finished, her cybernetic arm interfacing directly with the computational systems. The prosthetic was more than just a replacement limb. It was a sophisticated data processing unit that could run complex simulations faster than most supercomputers. Maya watched the two of them work, understanding that they were witnessing something unprecedented. The binary star system wasn't just dying. It was being methodically taken apart by a mechanism that suggested purpose beyond natural stellar evolution. David Chen stood apart, his initial skepticism giving way to a growing sense of scientific excitement. He had spent years being ridiculed for theories that suggested intelligent manipulation of stellar systems could be possible. Now the evidence was unfolding before them. "Look at this quantum signature," Kai said, pulling up a holographic model that looked more like a three-dimensional mandala than a scientific diagram. The gravitational wave propagation doesn't just follow standard quantum mechanical models. It's being guided, controlled. Elena's artificial eye zoomed in, processing the data at speeds no human brain could comprehend. The energy requirements would be impossible, David interrupted. But this time, the word didn't sound like a dismissal. It sounded like a challenge. Maya understood the significance of what they were seeing. This wasn't just about saving the Kepler 452 bits colony anymore. They were potentially encountering the first concrete evidence of a technology so advanced it bordered on miraculous. "We're looking at something that doesn't just manipulate gravity," Maya said slowly. "We're looking at a system that can reshape fundamental stellar mechanics." Kai's fingers froze mid-calculation. For a moment, the only sound was the subtle hum of quantum computing arrays. Then he spoke, his voice carrying a mixture of scientific excitement and profound dread. "What if the star system isn't being destroyed?" he proposed. "What if it's being transformed?" The implications hung in the air like a thundercloud. David moved closer to the holographic display, his previous cynicism replaced by a scientist's pure, unfiltered curiosity. The quantum entanglement patterns suggest a level of technological manipulation that goes beyond our current understanding of physics. This isn't just advanced technology. This is godlike, Elena finished. The room fell silent. Maya knew they were standing at the precipice of the most significant scientific discovery in human history. If they could understand the mechanism behind this stellar manipulation, they wouldn't just be saving a colony. They'd be unlocking the potential for humanity to fundamentally reshape the universe. "We need more data," she said finally. "And we need to do something no one has ever attempted before." Kai looked up, his perpetual anxiety momentarily replaced by pure scientific determination. "We're going to have to build a computational model that can predict and potentially counter this stellar manipulation. A system so complex it can essentially fight intelligence with intelligence." David's eyes gleamed. "It's not just a computational challenge. It's a philosophical one. We're talking about creating an adaptive system that can think like whatever intelligence is destroying the star system." Elena's cybernetic arm began running complex simulations, multiple computational threads working in perfect synchronization. 17 days, she reminded them. We have 17 days to develop a technology that doesn't just exist in our current understanding of physics. Maya looked at her team. A quantum physicist who could barely maintain eye contact, a propulsion engineer with a cybernetic arm, a disgraced theoretical physicist, and herself. They were humanity's last hope. "Then we'd better get to work," she said. The hunt for survival entered its next phase. The launch sequence was nothing short of controlled chaos. Quantum stabilization platforms, each the size of a small city, hung in the massive orbital assembly bay, their sleek titanium quantum composite hulls reflecting the harsh artificial lighting. These weren't just spacecraft. They were humanity's most audacious engineering achievement, cobbled together in less than 2 weeks from theoretical models that would have been dismissed as science fiction mere months ago. Elena Okoye stood in the primary launch control center, her cybernetic arm interfacing directly with the navigation systems. Sweat beaded on her forehead, not from fear, but from the intense concentration required to coordinate the most complex spatial deployment in human history. Platform Alpha is reporting final quantum entanglement calibration. Kai's voice crackled through the communication system. His fingers danced across multiple holographic interfaces, running simultaneous computational checks that would have crashed traditional computer systems. Gravitational resonance markers are within acceptable parameters. Barely. Maya watched the preliminary data streams, her entire body tense. 13 days remained before total stellar system collapse. Each platform represented billions in resources, years of theoretical research, and the last hope for 2.7 million colonists. "Initiation sequence begins in 3 minutes," Maya announced. The room fell silent, every eye locked on the holographic displays showing the massive platforms. David Chen, who had been quiet for most of the preparation, suddenly spoke. "The mathematical models suggest a 62.3% chance of catastrophic failure on initial deployment." "Those are the best odds we've had," Elena responded, her tone a mixture of dark humor and professional determination. The first platform, designated Alpha 1, began its launch sequence. Massive electromagnetic launch rings charged up, creating a cocoon of quantum-stabilized energy that would propel the city-sized structure into its precise position. The sheer amount of energy required would have powered entire continents just a decade earlier. "Quantum entanglement network is stabilizing," Kai reported, his voice breaking slightly. For someone who typically avoided human interaction, he was managing the most complex technological deployment in human history. The platform moved. Slowly at first, then with increasing velocity. Its design was unlike any previous spacecraft, less a traditional vessel and more a mobile quantum computational center designed to literally reshape gravitational fields. Approaching first intervention point, Elena called out. Her cybernetic arm was now fully integrated with the launch systems, running millions of calculations per second. Gravitational stress vectors air. Suddenly, every display went dark. Silence filled the control room. Maya's heart stopped. 13 days. They had 13 days to save an entire colony, and now their primary platform had gone completely dark. Then, a single communication channel flickered to life. "Control, this is Alpha 1, came a voice. Calm, almost casual. "Quantum stabilization complete. You're not going to believe what we're seeing." The holographic displays erupted with data. Impossible, fractal-like patterns of gravitational information began streaming in. The platform hadn't failed. It had succeeded beyond their wildest expectations. David leaned forward, his eyes wide. "Those gravitational signatures, they're not random. They're a communication protocol." "What?" Maya asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Whatever is destroying the star system," David said, "is trying to communicate, and our platform just became the first human device capable of receiving the transmission." Kai's fingers flew across the interfaces. "The quantum entanglement network is holding. But these data patterns, they're unlike anything in our computational models." Elena's cybernetic eye zoomed in on the data streams. It's not just a communication protocol. It's a challenge. Maya understood then that they weren't just trying to save a colony anymore. They had just made first contact with something so technologically advanced it could manipulate entire star systems as casually as humans might move chess pieces. "Broadcast is confirmed," Kai said, his usual anxiety replaced by pure scientific awe. "We're receiving something." The room held its collective breath. 12 days and 23 hours remained before total stellar system collapse, and humanity had just received its first message from the unknown. The conference room had become a war room, its walls lined with holographic displays showing increasingly bizarre data streams. What had begun as a rescue mission was now something far more complex, a potential existential confrontation with an intelligence beyond human comprehension. "The Void Architects," David muttered, tracing the intricate patterns of the alien communication protocol. "That's what we're calling them now." Maya nodded. The name had emerged from their analysis. A civilization, or perhaps a machine intelligence, that viewed entire star systems as nothing more than resources to be systematically harvested. The communication they'd intercepted wasn't a message in any traditional sense. It was more like watching the computational thought process of a mind that operated on scales humanity had never imagined. Kai's fingers never stopped moving, running simultaneous computational models that would have overloaded a dozen supercomputers. "They're not destroying the star system," he said, his voice carrying a mixture of scientific excitement and profound dread. "They're dismantling it. Methodically, like an engineer taking apart a complex machine." Alina's cybernetic eye zoomed in on a particularly complex data pattern. "Look at the quantum entanglement signatures," she said. "They're not just manipulating gravitational fields. They're rewriting the fundamental quantum interactions that define the star system's existence." 10 days remained before total collapse. The intercepted data revealed something terrifying. The Void Architects didn't view destruction the way humans did. This was harvesting. Systematic, purposeful. Every gravitational wave, every quantum interaction was being carefully measured, analyzed, and ultimately consumed. They'd done this before, David realized, spreading historical stellar data across the holographic displays. Not just once, hundreds of times. Entire star systems reduced to computational resources. Maya understood the implication immediately. They're not just destroying stars. They're processing them, using entire stellar systems as some kind of massive computational network. Kai looked up, making rare eye contact. The energy requirements would be incomprehensible. Alina finished. The room fell silent. Their original mission of saving the Kepler 452 bits colony had transformed. They were no longer just trying to rescue 2.7 million humans. They were facing an intelligence that could casually dismantle star systems, an entity that viewed entire civilizations as nothing more than raw computational material. "We're dealing with a post-stellar civilization," David said, his voice a mixture of scientific awe and terror. "Their technology is so advanced it's essentially indistinguishable from a natural process. They're not destroying the star system. They're harvesting it." Maya completed the thought. The holographic displays began showing comparative models, historical data of other star systems that had mysteriously disappeared, quantum interaction patterns that matched their current observations. A terrifying picture emerged. The Void Architects had been systematically consuming star systems across multiple galactic sectors. Kai's computational model started revealing something even more disturbing. "They're not just harvesting energy," he said, his voice breaking. "They're extracting information. Every quantum interaction, every gravitational wave, it's all data to them." Alina's cybernetic arm began running intensive simulation models. "If we're right, they view entire civilizations as nothing more than computational substrates. Biological or planetary systems are just another form of processing material." Maya understood the full weight of their discovery. This wasn't just about saving one colony. This was about understanding a threat that could potentially consume entire galactic regions. "We're not just trying to save Kepler 452 bits," she said quietly. "We're trying to understand a method of stellar harvesting that could threaten every known civilization." David looked up, a fire rekindling in his eyes. "Then we'll need to fight them using the only weapon we have, human innovation." 9 days remained. The hunt had transformed. They were no longer just trying to save a colony. They were preparing to confront an intelligence that consumed star systems like humans might consume data. And they were going to win. The breakthrough came at 3:47 a.m., in that liminal space between desperation and revelation. Kai had been running computational models for 96 consecutive hours, his body sustained by a cocktail of neural stimulants and pure scientific determination. The holographic displays around him looked like fractals born from mathematical madness, quantum interaction patterns that twisted and morphed with each passing millisecond. "It's not a weakness," he muttered, his fingers moving so fast they blurred. "It's a language." Maya and Alina burst into the research chamber, drawn by the sudden change in the computational atmosphere. David followed, his eyes already scanning the holographic displays with an intensity that suggested he already understood something profound. The quantum entanglement signatures from the Void Architect's stellar manipulation were not random. They were not even just a communication protocol. They were a computational process so complex it had initially appeared as pure chaos. "They're using the entire star system as a quantum computing network," Kai said, his usual social anxiety replaced by pure scientific clarity. "But the process isn't perfect. There are resonance gaps, computational blind spots." Alina's cybernetic arm began running parallel simulations, her artificial eye capturing data at speeds no human brain could process. "Blind spots mean vulnerabilities," she said, her voice a mixture of excitement and strategic calculation. David moved closer to the displays. "Not just vulnerabilities. Computational seams, places where their stellar manipulation algorithm becomes momentarily predictable." 7 days remained. Maya understood the implications immediately. They weren't just looking at a way to save the Kepler 452 bits colony. They were discovering a potential method to fight back against an intelligence that consumed entire star systems. "We can use their own computational process against them," she said slowly. The statement hung in the air, equal parts revelation and challenge. Kai's fingers danced across the interfaces, pulling up increasingly complex quantum models. "If we can create a quantum resonance pattern that exploits these computational seams, we might be able to not just interrupt their stellar manipulation, but potentially redirect it." The room fell silent as the magnitude of the discovery sank in. The Void Architects viewed star systems as nothing more than massive computational substrates. They harvested entire stellar regions with the same casual efficiency that humans might harvest crops. But now, humanity had found a way to fight back. "We'll need to build a quantum interference network," Alina said, her cybernetic systems already beginning to draft computational architectures. "Something that can inject alternative computational pathways directly into their stellar manipulation process." David's eyes gleamed with a scientific excitement he hadn't felt in years. "It's more than an interference network. We're talking about creating a computational virus that can potentially rewrite their entire stellar harvesting algorithm." Kai pulled up a holographic model that looked like a three-dimensional mathematical mandala. Quantum interaction patterns twisted and merged, showing potential computational pathways that could redirect the Void Architect's stellar manipulation. "We're not just saving the colony," Kai said, making rare eye contact with his teammates. "We're teaching them that humanity isn't just another computational resource to be harvested." Maya watched the computational models evolve. What had begun as a desperate rescue mission had transformed into something far more significant. They were developing a method to fight back against an intelligence that viewed entire civilizations as nothing more than raw processing material. 6 computational injection points, Alina calculated. Precisely timed. We'll need to synchronize our quantum stabilization platforms to create a cascading interference pattern. David nodded. It's like performing quantum surgery on an entire star system. The implications were staggering. If they succeeded, they wouldn't just save Kepler 452 bits. They would provide humanity with its first true defense against a cosmic threat that had consumed countless civilizations. 6 days remained. Kai looked up, a smile breaking through his usual social anxiety. "We're going to hack a star system," he said, the statement equal parts scientific declaration and act of profound human defiance. The hunt had entered its final, most dangerous phase. The final offensive began with a symphony of quantum disruption. Humanity's entire technological infrastructure had been mobilized. Research stations, orbital platforms, and every available computational resource were synchronized into a single, unprecedented network. The quantum stabilization platforms, once conceived as a rescue mission, were now weapons of cosmic defense. Platforms Alpha through Gamma reporting full quantum synchronization. Elena called out, her cybernetic arm a blur of computational interfaces. Sweat beaded on her forehead, the intensity of the moment etched into every line of her face. Maya watched the holographic displays, each one showing increasingly complex quantum interaction patterns. What they were about to attempt had never been conceived, let alone executed. They were going to fight an intelligence that consumed star systems by turning the very fabric of stellar mechanics into a computational battlefield. Kai's fingers moved with inhuman speed, running simultaneous computational models that would have melted traditional supercomputers. "Quantum resonance patterns are stable," he reported, his usual social anxiety replaced by pure, focused determination. "Computational interference vectors are aligned." 5 days remained. David Chen stood at the secondary computational hub, his decades of theoretical work finally finding its moment of vindication. The same scientific community that had ridiculed his stellar manipulation theories would soon understand the magnitude of what they were witnessing. Initiating quantum injection sequence, Maya commanded. The first wave of computational interference hit the Void Architect's stellar manipulation network like a surgical strike. It wasn't destruction. It was something far more precise. They were rewriting the fundamental computational process that was consuming the star system. The holographic displays erupted with impossible data. Quantum interaction patterns twisted and morphed, showing the alien computational network responding to their interference. It was like watching two hyper-advanced intelligences engage in a battle fought entirely through mathematical language. "They're adapting," Elena warned. Her cybernetic eye tracked computational changes happening at speeds that would be invisible to normal human perception. "The Void Architects are attempting to route around our interference." Kai's fingers flew faster. Counterpattern initiated. "We're not just blocking, we're redirecting their computational process." What unfolded was unlike any battle in human history. No weapons fired. No traditional combat occurred. Instead, an entire star system became a computational battlefield where mathematical patterns fought for dominance. The quantum stabilization platforms began to pulse with energy, each one injecting carefully calculated computational interference directly into the Void Architect's stellar manipulation network. It was surgical, precise, a form of technological acupuncture performed on an entire star system. "Gravitational stress vectors are stabilizing," David reported, his voice carrying a mixture of scientific excitement and profound concentration. "We're not just defending. We're teaching them." Maya understood the deeper significance. This wasn't just about saving the Kepler 452 bits colony. This was humanity's first true communication with an intelligence so advanced it viewed entire star systems as computational resources. "They're learning," Kai said suddenly. "Our computational interference. It's not just blocking their process. It's showing them an alternative method of interaction." The displays showed something extraordinary. The Void Architect's computational network was changing, not collapsing, not being destroyed, but fundamentally transforming. Elena's cybernetic systems ran intensive analysis. There, adapting to our interference, incorporating our computational patterns into their own processing. 4 days remained. David looked up, a smile breaking through his professional demeanor. We're not just defending. We're communicating. On a level no civilization has ever achieved before. The quantum interference continued, a battle fought through mathematical language, with the entire star system as its medium. Humanity was doing something unprecedented, teaching an alien intelligence a new way of perceiving existence. Maya watched the displays, understanding that they were witnessing a moment that would fundamentally change humanity's place in the universe. Continue quantum injection sequence, she commanded. The hunt had become something else entirely. No longer just survival. Now, it was a dialogue written in the language of quantum mechanics, with an entire star system as its canvas. The aftermath defied everything humanity had ever understood about cosmic interaction. The Kepler 452-bit system shimmered like a living mathematical equation, its binary stars transformed into something that was neither purely natural nor entirely artificial. Where destruction had seemed inevitable, a new form of stellar existence now pulsed with an otherworldly resonance. Maya Rodriguez stood in the primary observation deck, her reflection ghosting across the massive window that overlooked the transformed stellar system. The 2.7 million colonists had not just survived, they had become witnesses to the most profound moment of first contact in human history. It's not just saved, David Chen said, standing beside her. The decades of ridicule he had endured for his radical theories now seemed like a distant memory. It's been negotiated. Elena Okoye's cybernetic systems continued running computational analysis, her artificial eye capturing details that would take years to fully comprehend. The Void architects didn't just stop, she observed. They changed. We changed them. Kai Zhang, surprisingly, stood closest to the window, a rare moment of direct engagement for someone who typically avoided human interaction. His fingers still moved, tracing invisible computational patterns in the air, but there was something different in his posture. Excitement. Wonder. The star system had become a living testament to an impossible dialogue. Where the Void architects had once seen star systems as mere computational resources to be harvested, they now exhibited something approaching curiosity. Something like respect. Detailed reports were already flooding in from the Kepler 452-bits colony. The planetary infrastructure had not just survived, it had been subtly transformed. Quantum communication networks now threaded through the entire colony, offering levels of technological integration that would have seemed like magic mere weeks ago. We didn't just save them, Maya said quietly. We taught them. The quantum interference sequence they had developed was more than a defensive mechanism. It was a form of communication so profound that it transcended traditional understanding of language, technology, or intelligence. Miguel Rodriguez, Maya's brother and the lead geological engineer of the colony, approached the observation deck. His eyes carried the same mixture of scientific excitement and existential wonder that his sisters did. The planetary infrastructure is reporting unprecedented levels of quantum integration, he said. It's like the entire colony has been upgraded, not just protected, but fundamentally transformed. Kai looked up, making rare direct eye contact. Computational symbiosis, he explained. We showed the Void architects that star systems could be more than resources, that they could be collaborative systems. The implications were staggering. Humanity had not just defended itself against a cosmic threat. They had engaged in a form of interstellar diplomacy that no one had ever conceived possible. Elena's computational analysis continued to stream in. Preliminary data suggests the Void architects are recalibrating their entire stellar harvesting methodology across multiple galactic sectors. Our interaction has triggered a fundamental shift in their computational approach. David moved to another display, pulling up comparative models. We've essentially taught an advanced machine intelligence a new way of perceiving existence, not through traditional communication, but through pure mathematical interaction. Maya understood the deeper significance. This was more than a scientific breakthrough. This was a fundamental reimagining of humanity's place in the cosmic ecosystem. The transformed Kepler 452-bit system stood as a beacon, a living example of what happened when human innovation met cosmic intelligence. The binary stars pulsed with a light that was neither natural nor artificial, but something entirely new. "We're not just survivors anymore," Maya said, her voice carrying the weight of their achievement. "We're translators, intermediaries between different forms of cosmic intelligence." Kai nodded, a rare smile breaking through his typical social reserve. "We hacked a star system," he said, the statement both a scientific declaration and a profound act of human defiance. The observation deck fell silent, each team member understanding that they had fundamentally altered humanity's cosmic trajectory. The hunt that had begun as a desperate rescue mission had transformed into something far more significant, a first step towards a new understanding of existence itself. Outside, the transformed star system continued its quantum dance, a living testament to human innovation, resilience, and the infinite potential of understanding.